Works. Okay, good. It's still loud though. Okay, hold on. Yeah, that should be fine. Sorry. Okay. Okay. Yeah, cool. All right. Now I have a face. How's it going, dudes? Okay. We're gonna do the same thing we did before, but this time with watercolor. If you weren't here before, here's what we did last time. We sketched a bird using a step drawing or a photo reference, And hi, Frankie. And we colored it with chalk pastel. Morgan, hello. And yeah, we colored it with chalk pastel. So this time we're gonna do some more paint, some more birds, but this time with watercolor, using a set. If you're a student at our in-house studio, you probably have this. So we're gonna start by gathering the materials. So get yourself some watercolors. Doesn't have to be this one. How's it going, Freaky? It's good to see some familiar names. So we're going to be using these watercolors, but if you don't have these same watercolors, it's fine. Also need watercolor paper. I forget what this one is. I think it's 400. Whatever weight. A pencil, eraser, some tape if you got it. Some scissors to cut up your paper with. And your reference materials. So I got some step drawings for our younger artists to look at while they follow along. If I can find it. I knew I forgot something. Here's that. And then I also have some watercolor examples. So if you want to have a finished product in front of you while you work on stuff. There's that. That second link is basically just pictures of these two things. So kind of the techniques that we're gonna go over is that whatever we do, we're gonna have a very like wet on wet looking background. And we're not gonna do a lot of layers, but a good amount of layers. Yeah, and I think I'm going to be doing 2 at once. If you're following along at home, you do not need to do 2 at once. The reason why I'm choosing to do 2 is because I can work on one while waiting for the other one to dry. So if you have a ruler, you can measure out like kind of like a frame size or whatever. The switch case is my frame. And this is like a half sheet of watercolor paper. So I'm just gonna trace that with my pencil. How's everybody doing today? Hope y'all doing just swell. First stream was a little nerve-wracking because the face cam was like super broken and it never did that before. And I used the exact same setup that I literally used last night on a different platform. Then it's like, nah, we're just gonna break. Wasn't a big deal. I just had to unplug it and plug it back in. But did not want to deal with it in the moment. But other than that, it's been a good day so far. And you'll also probably want a testing strip to test out your colors. I just made myself one just by trimming this. But if you do a lot of watercolor, you will accumulate a lot of testing strips. Fine. That's good that you're fine. I'm also fine. Everything's fine. Morgan. Irene. I think you're the first actual student that's in here. Yes, I am glad it's working out, Maple. It's like, wait, that name's familiar, and I just connected the dots. Are you gonna paint a bird with me today, Morgan? I hope you've been okay with all the school and junk. I'm glad you're in the stream. Let me move this down here. Yes, me too. It's good to see a familiar face, isn't it? So I'm taping down the edges. If you're doing it at home, you don't need to. I'm also working on a slightly elevated surface. I don't know. I don't know what... Like, maybe you can scrounge up something at home to be some kind of elevated platform. Or you can follow along digitally. Morgan, you can follow along digitally if you want. But this is just like a Tillamook lid on top of a box on my table. So that I can have a slightly elevated surface while painting. Focusing. Okay. Time to do sketch time. I've been hunkering down. I'm doing art mostly for fun. And also not. Taking a break. Hopefully the break won't last forever. We got... Okay, so... Since I did... My previous examples has been a hummingbird and this little round bird friend that I just like, I googled winter birds. And this kind of white, black, and red bird showed up, so I did like a round one and that one. So maybe I'll do a crow for this one, the crow kind. I left my step drawings over there. Got him. I'm even wearing my apron, so it's like we're at work. I went to the studio and borrowed it. Okay, but I don't have my pens on it. Okay, so I sent a link, the bird step drawings. If you want these at home, you can either just have them open on a separate tab or print them out. We got the round bird, we have a basic hummingbird, a really cute, like, little simple cartoon bird, and the crow. So I think we'll do this in watercolor. That'll be fun. And since we're working on a smaller piece of paper, we want to make sure we don't draw a teeny tiny bird. So start with the biggest shapes first and sketch lightly. You can see that okay. Zoom in. Zoom. Zoom in, turn up the brightness. Yeah. Okay. I'm a little bit more comfy now that I did that first one. That pastel one. Kind of doing step one, just kind of bean shape and then connecting them and making the top of the head flatter, because birds have really funky, not very round heads. Top of their heads are pretty flat. And throughout the stream, if you have any questions or concerns, or if you're doing something not what I'm doing but still have a question about it, feel free to write in the chat any questions or queries. Or if I'm going too fast, if you want to follow along exactly what I'm doing, you can tell me to slow down. It's like I've drawn this before or something. But I'm just going for it. Remembering to sketch lightly. I'm like in the middle of like I'm about done with step 2, so I'm gonna erase where all of those dotted lines are so I can move on. And if you draw lightly, it shouldn't be a problem. It's not a problem anymore. Pro tip, when you make eraser shavings, it's better to wipe them towards you so that it eventually finds its way like off the table. The con for that is that it all ends up on your lap. But the pro for that, if you sweep them away the other way, then the shavings might fall down again and get in your picture while you're trying to paint. And that's way more of a pain. And it keeps your table a little bit cleaner. You just have to pick up your floor every now and then. Rip carpet. People that might have been doing the whatchamacallit, the pastel on carpet. I don't know if it stains carpet. I have no idea. I'm in my little home studio back here. That used to be my brother's room. Right now I'm on this step, where you're kind of adding like a spoon for the tail feather. The tail feather is longer than the wing. This one's longer. I'm going to exaggerate that a little bit more. Draw the new version before erasing the old version. Don't make it too messy so you forget what lines you wanted to keep and which ones you didn't. It's all about like kind of what speed you want to go to. It's like you can have a really sketchy picture that you do really fast and then you clean it up and erase it. Or you can kind of keep it as clean as you can as you go, which is what I'm doing. Okay, next is the little beak. And the little beak kind of curves in and out like that. So I'll do the same thing because this bird looks really weird without a beak. So let's give it one. Ba-bam, bam, bam, bam. Do it like that, and then when it comes to here, it kind of curves down and back there, and it gets close off there. I think I made it a little bit too high up. Don't be afraid to redraw stuff, because it'll most of the time turn out better the second time. If you've already successfully drawn it once, then you can do it again. The other important thing, I'm not demonstrating the best tool to work with. This is a 2B pencil, but it's more recommended to just work with a regular number 2 pencil or an HB pencil. Or 2H or whatever, because when you're making a watercolor picture, the pencil lines are definitely going to be visible underneath. But it would be hard to see on the stream if I used a lighter pencil, so I'm not doing that. And it also makes it extra important to keep your sketch relatively clean. It could be an aesthetic that you're going for. If you want the whole thing to look kind of messy and wild and dynamic, you could have it be really scribbly, the pencil lines, and then have that be a part of the art. So for most of these birds, they have legs showed on the last stream that are more parallel to each other instead of perpendicular. But in this case, crows and like the larger birds, they kind of have legs that they almost have like a joint, so it kind of goes like down and then out in a different direction, like an L shape almost, depending on what picture you might be looking at. So, but I'm just going to copy what I see here. I'm going to be following the step drawing pretty closely. And I am keeping it as a line drawing. For now. Just while I decide where they go. And then I can add a little bit more substance to them. It just kind of happens with practice. Just trying to add. You're just kind of adding flesh to those bones. That's all you're really doing. And maybe some claws. And the legs are kind of the thinnest up here, and then they get wider as they go down. Must be my neighbors doing something loud and bassy out there. So I'm hearing it again. Like somebody's moving a... Why are people so loud? I'm busy. Okay. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this step drawing. I could put a line... Focus. Focus, focus, penguin in a costume. Ooh, I never did a penguin. Maybe I'll do a penguin for the other one. Penguin. Alright, there's bird. It could be whatever bird you want. You can't hear from your end? Okay, good. Thanks. Thank you for your constant validation. Maple, I don't know what I would do without you. Okay. Crow. Images. Just Google image crow. It needs to be sitting on something. But on what? And the last picture of a crow I did, it was sitting on a... Thanks. I had it sitting on a power line, so I want to do something else for this one. Dude, when I Google crows, just like, they're like... Crows are doing the best they can. The Atlantic. That's a good picture of a crow, though. Let's try to have it be on, like a branch or something. It's on something that's like this. So maybe it can be like... And I kind of made it look like it's on a ledge of something. Maybe on a fence. And it's Halloween. Now it's on some kind of pole. Trying to think of how to draw it on a fence. I might just have to redraw the feet. So I want it to be pretty simple. You know those roofs that have like the tiles and stuff? On a finger? But then I have to mix a flesh tone. I don't want to do easy paintings. I'm just trying to figure out the perspective. Finger. I'll do it on finger. It's not that bad mixing a flesh tone. It would also make the crow look really small if it was small enough to fit on a finger, which is pretty cute. It's a cute idea. I'll do that. But I'll make it like a witch's finger, so you draw like a very long pointy nail. It's like Mary's status. Maybe something like that. Hold on, I almost got it. Use my own finger for a reference. Because it would be more... more like that. Do 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 do. Da, 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 Alright. Fingers are not very pretty, but there it is. And then, would we be able to see... There's the first knuckle, and then maybe the second knuckle's like here. So I don't think we'd be able to see any other ones. Which I'm totally fine with. And then maybe the background can just be kind of like a night sky with like a very stylish, very stylized crescent moon. Boop 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 boop. It's always spooky month in my head. Oh, it's spooky month. Okay, just pulling up another picture. Yes. Yes, Mina, if you want your crow on a fence, then draw on a fence. Maybe I'll put a fence behind it. So, okay, new idea. It's gonna be another Halloween themed picture. So it's gonna be on like a finger with like a green nail on it because it's spooky, and then I'll put a fence behind it. How I like to draw fences. I think I would draw a fence if I drew the crow a little bit higher up on the frame, but I did not do that. And I didn't want to redraw the whole crow. So the lesson in that is to try to plan out a little bit about what you want to do for the whole picture before you start, and then you won't have the problem that I'm having. Give the bird a Yankee with no brim. I don't know what a Yankee is, Morgan. But I'm gonna put a little moon up here. And then a little cat silhouette. Actually, no. Just doing it in the fence is good. Because I gotta start painting soon. Alright, so I'm gonna show you a little bit of wet on wet for skies or whatever kind of background you want. Wet on wet is nice. If I can't open. Okay, I open. Open! So for your watercolor supplies, you'll need a paper towel. Some guy got a Yankee hat, cut off the brim, calling it a Yankee with no brim. Oh, I don't even know what a Yankee hat is. Okay. So I'm gonna start with the sky. We're gonna work from top to bottom, just like we do in classes. And since it's nighttime and it's kind of like a Halloween themed picture, I'm gonna make a purple sky. So if you have a palette, this palette or a palette like this at home, you can mix your colors right in the lid here. So how to work with these watercolors. So you get them nice and soaked first. And just picking up some paint, some water, and putting it on the paint. I'm also gonna put some on the black. It's kind of good to get them all. If you have a spray bottle, you could probably expedite this. Just kind of put water on your paint. Okay, the blue's been soaking for a little bit. So swirl the blue in your palette. And you can use the edge to kind of scrape that paint off. Kind of want it like a bluey purpley sky. So I'm just gonna mix the blue and purple together. This is going to be my strongest color. So a color that only has a little bit of water in it. And really just mixing a lot of paint in there. Then you can give it a little test on your testing strip. And that's about to be expected. Whoa, the brightness is making it look a lot more different than it actually is. That's fine. And then I want to make a more weak blue color for other parts of the sky. So when you're doing a wet on wet wash, you want to mix all the colors that you want to use before you start. Yeah, these will look fine mixed together, right? Sure. And then of course it's the color that I didn't saturate, but also this magenta might be nice. So risky to do this right over my paper. Okay. So I have this magenta, but I want to make it a little bit more purpley, so I'll put a little bit of blue in there. To make like a very warm purple. Okay, so I'm gonna carefully set that aside. Okay. So for our wet on wet wash, what you want to do first is soak where you want the wet on wet wash to go with just clear water. You might be able to see it ever so slightly just because of how the water has already been a little bit tinted while mixing your own colors, but that's fine. You just want to start at the top, and having a slightly tilted work surface is nice. Is there another studio instructor monitoring this chat? I think it's just you so far. Cindy and Steve were in the first one, but I haven't seen them post in the chat yet, so I don't know if they're here. But I think it's just you. Okay, so the strong colors I want to put near the top. So why it's called wet on wet is that you're putting paint on top of wet paper. So you can see it kind of spreading out on its own. And I'll put some blue in there too. Just let it mingle. Yeah. Oh, Cindy's here. Cool. I'm just gonna do, if you want colors to be darker or stronger, you can do multiple coats of this. But because this demonstration is just going to be 2 hours, I'm going to try to do a minimum amount of coats. So however this is just gonna be how it is. So because my board is slightly tilted, all these drips are kind of gathering at the bottom. So you just kind of tap your brush out, and then the brush just sucks up that water. You don't want to suck up too much, or else you'll just get rid of all the color in there. But you want to suck up a decent amount. And I'm going to see if I can use my brush to pick up a little bit of extra color around the moon, to kind of give the illusion that the moon is glowing. But overall, watercolor dries a little bit lighter. Okay, so I'm gonna add a little bit. Watercolor is a very time-sensitive medium, and the more you touch it, the worse it gets. So I'm gonna stop touching it now. Very tempting. That's the hardest part about watercolor painting, is stopping. So I'm gonna work on, so at this point I can't work on the fence and I can't work on the bird, because there's a possibility of, if I do more wet on wet washes, the colors of the sky will bleed into the bird and the fence. But I can work on the finger. So if you're just working on one picture at a time, kind of find ways to kind of hop around to get done what you need to get done. I'm just mixing kind of a cooler green, and I'm just gonna fill it in with the first layer. I'm gonna do a couple of layers of green. This is just the first one. So I want that green to be really strong. So the more layers you add, the stronger the color will be. And since I was pretty light with that coat, it wasn't a wet on wet wash, it'll dry pretty quickly. So let's try to mix the flesh tone. Actually, it's a witch. I can make it green. Okay, it's gonna be light green. I'm just gonna paint right over its little feet, because I know the feet are gonna be black. So I don't need to worry about trying to paint around those right now. There we go, witch finger. I know it's risky, but let me see if I can color in the moon real quick. With some bellow. Alright, so that's a good start on that one. So you can, so you have a few options at this point. You can wait for it to dry. You can use a blow dryer to dry it. You can just wave it around, as long as it's not super drippy. But for me, I'm gonna try to get the tape back on here. I'm gonna take it off. I'm gonna set it aside and start another one. Alright, this next one has to be a super simple sketch. Alright, because I already spent a long time on the first sketch. So let's do like a beginner watercolor for this one. Because my, yeah, so this kind of bird. Because my chalk pastel demonstration was kind of a blue dot high level one. So let's do a very simple watercolor for this next one, just for something to do in between waiting for the other one to dry. Bam. The watercolor paper I'm using is Strathmore brand. I believe, and it's a 400 weight, 400 pounds. I know words. And I'm using a transparent watercolor set. And just blue tape that I'm tearing in half because I have very thick blue tape and I don't need it to be that thick. Oh, and another little tip is that I'm putting the tape kind of on my apron or on my pants first so that it sticks a little bit less to the paper and you can peel it off without peeling the paper back. Less likely for that to happen. It could still happen. You know, Morgan. Okay, let's do Simple Bird. This bird is just gonna be in a nest. Well, no. This bird's gonna be... This bird's gonna be in... What do birds like? A bird bath. Let's put it in a bird bath. It's gonna be having a great time in this bird bath. So I'm not quite starting out with drawing the bird, because the problem that I had with the crow is that I kind of wanted it to be on a fence, but since I didn't give it enough room below it, I couldn't really draw it on a fence and have it make sense. So this time, I'm drawing the object where I want the bird to reside first, and then drawing the bird. So it's kind of reverse order from what we usually do at the studio, but it is useful in this case. So I'm trying to draw a container. I'm just trying to draw like a kind of a pie tin looking deal. A little bit flatter. So if that first sketch was too tricky for you, you can start with this one. There's what the bird bath is on. And now we can draw the bird with it. I'm going to be following along with this step drawing. I'm going to be putting that in the chat again in case if you want to see what all of the step drawings are that I have available. You can also just Google bird step drawing. Basically, we're gonna... Ooh, should we do two birds? They're friends. The first bird's here, and then another bird's here. I like drawing friends. So if you're drawing two of something, I like to work on them simultaneously instead of doing one and then stopping and then doing the other one. Because if it turns out one of them is not where I want it to be, then I have to redo the entirety of one instead of just working on them both at the same time. So this one's kind of, let's see. Since this one's the smaller one, this one can be like in front. Then this one's going to be more behind. Just making these half circles for wings. Nice big wingspan. And then depending on what you erase can show what wing is in front and what wing is going behind. So this wing's going in front. And this wing is in front of this bird. I'm going to erase that part. And then this wing is in front. And then we're actually going to add, oh, and The birds are in front of the bird feeder, so let's erase these lines too. And if you draw lightly, it shouldn't be a problem. It should be super easy and quick to do. And next is, yes, making the feathers. So you can add as many or as little feathers as you want. I'm just going to do 3. 1, 2, 3. The third one's kind of going behind. 1 bump, 2 bump. Can't really see the third one. 1 bump, 2 bumps, 3 bumps. And remember, if you do your birds, well, watercolors are transparent. So you gotta be super happy with your sketch, spend plenty of time on it, because the pencil lines will most likely be visible underneath your sketch, underneath your painting. Pardon. So if you have a bunch of messy, wavy lines like this, that's going to be visible in the final drawing. Painting. So that's why watercolor sketches tend to take a little bit longer, because you want to make sure that it's nice and clean. It also makes it easier for you to paint if you're just starting painting, because then you can be more confident about where you need your paint to go if you don't have a bunch of messy lines. Okay, now I'll put the legs. And then its little tail feathers. And its little head feathers. Kind of makes him look like a chicken. And its little beak. So a lesson in cuteness, quick lesson in cuteness, is putting the eyes super far apart. And like that is pretty cute, but also pretty goofy. If you put the beak far away from the other ones, that looks a little bit off. If the features are really close together, you might be able to maximize that cuteness. But now that I did this, I want this instead. So experiment with different things to figure out what you like, because I wouldn't have realized that I liked that if I hadn't done it. So I'm going to put the eyes a little bit more far apart, but the beak is going to be more on the left side to kind of show that it's facing left. Well, that's cute. Okay, do the same thing with this one. And go their friends. And it's just going to be a blue sky behind them. I'm not going to put a sun or anything. It's just going to be blue. If you have too much different complicated stuff going on, it can get a little tricky. Lastly, I'm going to kind of show where to put where the pool water is going to go. Going to be kind of wavy. Then maybe I'll put a very light indication of water droplets. Okay, so we can start with the first coat of that, but first, it's gonna be okay if we don't finish this. I'm more focused on finishing this. If it doesn't feel super cool, if you very lightly touch it, then it should be dry enough to continue. Continue with our spooky bird here. Next I'm going to do a wet on wet for the fence. So I think I'm going to use the purple and the blue for the crow. So I need to make a little bit of space on this palette, so I'm going to erase this color, so we don't need it anymore. Wipe that up, and then I'm going to want to use these greens again too. But I'll keep the yellow here. Well, since it's dry, let me just use this yellow. Here, put a second coat on the moon. Very nice. Now that's a little bit darker, and then let me put a second coat on the nail. Okay, cool. That'll probably dry by the time I do the... Well, since I have these two colors already mixed for the crow, why don't I just do the crow next? I'm gonna mix a third pile, though, of black. That's not a good example to make. Why just use black where I can mix a black? You can mix a black by putting complementary colors together. So let's do blue. And the complement to blue is orange. We're going to pull a little bit of orange in there. A little bit more orange in there. But since this orange in the palette is so yellowy, the gray will start turning a little green. So you want to put a little bit of red in there to compensate. And that's a bit of a warm gray. I want to cool the gray. So let me put some of that blue back in there. And now we have a gray. That has some more depth to it than if you just use black straight from the deal. Okay, I'm gonna keep a photo reference of a crow up. And I'm just gonna do another wet on wet wash just to start off. Soaking the bird in water first. Just plain old water. Start going from top to bottom. Doing everything except the legs. I'm going to do these little doohickeys at the bottom, though. Pick up the drip if you see it. Okay, and then now I'm going to start with blue. I think blue feathers would be quite nice. I'm also going to make kind of the top of the head blue. Everything will kind of bleed into each other, which is totally fine. And then the purple, where I want it to be kind of dark, I'm going to put kind of underneath here. And pick up that drip a little bit more. And let's put in some gray. There isn't much in the way of getting solid black watercolor, because watercolor is transparent. You can just get it closer to black throughout many layers. I'm gonna try to keep the top of the beak uncolored, I guess it already dried there. so that it can be like the beak shine. Let's put a little bit of purple here to kind of separate out the neck here. Okay, ba-ba-da. Any questions or concerns so far with the process? We're not doing any feather details. We're just doing a base color of fun. I'm gonna do another layer of the finger. Just gonna have a little bit of a darker green at the bottom here. And then I'm gonna soften the edge. See that dark line? I'm gonna soften the edge by cleaning off the brush, tapping off a little bit of water from it, and then going half where it's wet and half where it's dry. And then the hard edge goes away. It's easier to do when the colors are already so close to each other, like it looks like I haven't done anything. That's fine. I can try to demonstrate with a darker color. And then soften the edge. Just be like bloop. Okay, so now I have to wait for that to dry. Woo! Switch into the next one. If you're just following along with this one, you can just watch me work on the other one while you wait for it to dry. This one. Alright, let's start with the sky. Let's see what colors we can kind of recycle from this. We have this blue. So I kind of want to use that blue more. So let me just mix a bigger puddle of it. Make it a little bit weaker because I want it to be a nice day. And then there is another blue in this palette, this greenish blue. So I'm going to make another pile of that way over here. Why'd the music suddenly stop? Haven't dropped any frames. Okay, we have internet. Okay. Just suffering a little PTSD from like, oh god, is my internet down? I'll get the music back up in a moment. I'm gonna put some of this blue into here to still make these two colors a little bit similar. Okay, before I start this wet on wet wash, let me figure out what happened with the music. Video pause, continue watching, yes. It's just YouTube doing its YouTube thing. Okay, I'm also going to show off a technique called pulling up clouds, which works best for wet on wet. At least that's what I found. Okay, so same as before. We want to get this paper coated with water. Go around where you don't want to be blue as much as you can. Because water is going to go, or color is going to go wherever you put the water. So even though it seems like it's not super important to keep it out of bounds, to keep it on the outside of those lines, it is pretty important because won't cause you problems down the line if you're careful about it now. And it's harder to control the water. It's harder to control where the paint goes. There's a bunch of water there. I kind of look at it from an angle to see where the drips have gathered. That's why I'm all twisting and turning here. Okay. And if you don't want the water to flow down and you have it at an angle right now, just hold it flat for this. I'm going to still have it at an angle. Put some of that other blue in there. Whoa! Oh boy. The top is going to dry first just because of gravity, so work fast. Use the tip of your brush to get into those little bitty areas. Okay, then you can start picking up your drips a little bit. But again, to do the cloud lifting thing, we gotta do that now. So take your paper towel and kind of make a little point to it. Tap, tap, tap. You don't want to wipe the picture, just tap it. You can tap little clouds. Little poofy happy clouds into it. And if you do a wet on wet, the paper will stay wet longer so that you can do this technique. But if you just do like a flat wash, the top of the page is probably going to be dry by the time you're done painting the bottom. Oh, thank you, Frankie. Yes, I already had this set up for the streaming that I do for fun on a different platform, which I will not disclose. So I thought I could use it to do something nice for the studio as well. Secrets. Secret time. Sending those. But yeah, I just got the face cam working relatively recently. Ugh. Kind of. Unless if it does something super weird. Then I had a third webcam, but that one doesn't work at all. That one crashes my computer. But yeah, so this is done. I guess while I have the blue, I can fill in the water. It's good to kind of figure out what to do. The water's going to be lighter at the top and darker at the bottom because it gets deeper at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is flip the whole thing upside down so that I can have gravity do something neat. So I'm going to use this blue. And I'm going to do pretty much a flat wash where you just use one color. You got to make sure that you have a pretty decent amount on your brush so that you make what's called a drip. I don't have a big drip going on because it isn't super important. It's in such a small part. Then I'm gonna rinse my brush off, tap just a tiny bit of water out there. And kind of mix water into it near the bottom. So I didn't add any more color to my brush for that last part. I'm going to tap a little bit more and pick up a little bit more water off of there. So it'll look a little bit lighter at the bottom. Then when I flip it back around, it'll look a little bit lighter at the top. Cute! Okay. Let's wait for this to dry. How am I doing? 1 hour? Cool. Going at a pretty good pace. Got an eraser shaving on there somehow. Let me just tape it how it's supposed to go, and then I'll move the camera since I goofed that up. Okay. Focus. Alright, let's do the fence next. Since these piles were easy to mix, I'm gonna get rid of those. It was just a color that it was. Wasn't any color combo, but I might want to use these more for the crow. So for the fence, I also want it to be kind of more gray color, because you would think like, oh, it's brown, right? Because fences are made out of wood, so it's brown. But at nighttime, that changes how you see color quite a bit. Like if you look at trees and the mountains way in the distance, the trees will look more blue than green. So we're going to use a little bit of atmospheric perspective here and make the fence more like this dark blue color. I'm going to put some of this into it. Alright, so we got this dark blue. And I was debating on having it be another wet on wet wash, but I think I'll do a flat wash instead so I can demonstrate that. So for that, I'm going to need a little bit more of that dark blue. So give me a moment while I mix that. And I haven't been testing out my colors as much as I should have, so let's see what that looks like. That looks good. Just need more. It's better to have way too much of the color that you need, especially if you're mixing it, than not enough. Because it is a pain in the dickens to have to mix it again. It does feel a little bit wasteful, but watercolor lasts a long time. Okay, cool. So for a flat wash, gonna get in a little bit closer on that action. Is that you want to make sure that your brush has plenty of paint on it. And I'm kind of holding it at a 45-degree angle. And you don't want to outline the whole thing first like that. Kind of want to treat it flat like that. You can outline it a little bit. But imagine like a printer printing something out. And this is when having your board tilted will come in especially handy. Because while you're working over here, this is not going to dry right away because of that drip, but you still want to work pretty quickly. Okay. So we're going to continue down. I'm not painting right below it. Instead of painting below it, it's more like I'm moving this drip of paint down further. And kind of feeding that drip. Now, as long as you keep that drip strong, it'll greatly reduce the amount of streaks that are in your flat wash, because streaks is kind of the thing that happens the most. When you're trying to do flat washes. It might be better to use a smaller brush at this point. But I'm in the middle of a wash, so I can't find it right now. From top to bottom. I was forgetting that for a second. Whoops. I knew that would happen. I knew it! Okay, then tap it on a paper towel and pick up the drip. So that's pretty much how you do a flat wash. There was a little bit of a streak here and there, but if it's a darker color, it's more likely for streaks to happen. And vice versa. That's all I can do with this one for right now. Let's go back to the other one. Okay, I want my birds to be yellow? Sure. I ran out of space on my palette. I kind of want to keep all the colors in there. But I guess I'll erase this one. Because whenever you mix a gray, at least with this watercolor palette, the colors kind of separate after a while. So that gray that I mixed for the crow was not super... I can do it again. Okay. For yellow, make sure your brush is extra clean. Even dirty water can ruin your yellow, but I'm not gonna concern myself with that. I'm just using a solo cup for the water, by the way. That was one of the materials I forgot to list. I just assumed, like, you know, if you click on something that's like watercolor, you probably need water. I don't want to be too assuming, though. Okay, so I'm going to do a flat wash with the birds as well. Because I think I'll eventually make, like, these little head bit red and, like, this orange. And, yeah. I think I'll just try to go around the water droplets. And before I start, let me find my other paintbrush. Here we go. It's just one size smaller. It's just one size smaller. And these brushes are just from the $1.50 store. Like, you don't need super expensive brushes, even though it's nice to have expensive brushes. As long as they're not leaking bristles everywhere, you will be fine. So it's a lot easier to do a flat wash with a lighter color because it's less streaky. But I'm also treating the two birds as one object. So kind of going side to side, like a printer. Really scooping up that color to make that drip nice and big. Oh boy, fun stuff. Okay, tap off the brush, pick up all the little drips. Cute. Okay, next I'm gonna add to this yellow and mix the color for the bird bath, which I want it to be kind of like terracotta pot, so I'm gonna use this color and just mix it into the yellow that I already have. So it's kind of like this orangey color, just for a first coat. Let's see, what does that look like? That's good for a first coat. I'll just make it a little bit weaker. That's good. If you start with weaker colors, it'll be easier to make it smoother. As in, weaker as in colors that have a lot of water mixed in. If you start with really strong colors, that is like a lot of pigment and almost no water, the likelihood of it becoming streaky is increased by a lot. So watercolor definitely doesn't allow you to cut any corners, as I'm about to try to do right now. Please be dry enough, yellow. Want me to paint on top of you? Yay. Okay. Everything is cool. Alright, there's first coat for the bird bath. I know it all looks flat right now, but like this is gonna be darker and that's gonna be even darker, and that's all gonna happen with layers. It's all about them layers. Speaking of layers, let's put another layer on this, because right now everything pretty much looks the same except the hands. So I'm gonna have it upside down, because I want the fence to be the darkest at the bottom and the lightest at the top. So the next thing I'm going to do is called the graduated wash, where you start with the strongest color to begin with, so the most pigment and the least amount of water, and then as you do a flat wash you add more and more plain water into this, and then it'll continuously get weaker as you go down. So the bottom will be the darkest and the top will be the lightest. So I'm going to make it closer to gray So it almost looks purpley. It's gonna be a little bit of a warmer color. And it's pretty strong, so let me go ahead and begin. Now, watercolor can be a very precise, almost photorealistic kind of medium. However, for the sake of this demonstration, watercolor can also look like watercolor. It can be messy, like colors can overlap. And it will still look alright, because it just looks like it's made out of watercolor. See, I'm adding some more water in there. And then when I get near the top, I don't really want to use the color that I'm using anymore, so I'm going to clean off my brush and just wipe it off on the side of the cup without drying it off. So like the rest of the wash is just with water. So it's pulling the color that I've added down a little bit. But my brush isn't too dry that I'm accidentally picking up the layer below. Maybe just a little bit. I could probably do that a couple more times, but yeah. Okay, I'm going to be working on the crow next. I'm just going to be doing some texture on the fence now because we got to keep going. I could do like 3 more layers on this to make it darker, but I'm not going to. Let's move on to, let's do this guy. Wow, that one dries. So for this terracotta pot, I'm going to add some more of this color in here. That'll make it stronger and darker. See how that looks. Yeah. So where I want the terracotta pot to be darker is where I'll put the second coat. So around the rim is where I'm not going to put it. Instead, I'm going to put it below the rim here. Got a lot of paint on that brush. It's like mostly drips. So I'm gonna pick up that drip so it looks even. Okay. Then we're gonna go here and put a second coat just here. And I'm going to continue it down here. I don't know why I tried to keep that nice. You just keep going. Okay, done. Next, I think we can mix a little bit of a darker yellow here. I don't think we need this blue anymore. So let me wipe that up. I'm going to start with the yellow that we had at the beginning. But now I'm also going to put a little bit of this yellow into it. To make it a little bit more orangey. you don't need a lot of it. So let's test that. Yeah, it'll look nice. So this is going to be going upside down again. I got some water on here somehow. Okay. Because the sun is probably somewhere above the birds. So what I'm going to do is add the darker color at the top and then soften it towards the bottom so that the bottom will be lighter. So we got our light source. I'm going to be working on these things a little bit more separately now, kind of imagining how the lights and darks affect each one of these parts of the birds. So we have that. And I'm just going to soften the edge there. A little thing got stuck in there, so that's fine. Okay. Okay. Next, let's work on this next guy. I think I like this one better than the other one. It be like that sometimes. I've been working mostly with gouache recently. Not that that's like an excuse for anything, it's just a statement. I think gouache is harder than watercolor in some ways. At least how I use it. Okay, cute. So now it has, I'll be a very subtle shading. The top of the birds are a little bit lighter than the bottom of the birds. Focus! Focus! So confused. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Alright, so next we're going to do the shading on this bird. The dark colored bird, it's gonna happen a little bit differently. Let me get my picture of a crow out here. So right now I have this purple, and I'm actually gonna add a little bit of yellow to it. And that purple had also been kind of drying out, so now it's stronger because some of the water evaporated from it. So I'm gonna try to imagine the bird in kind of like color blocks, like what's gonna be darker on it and what's gonna be lighter. Let me look at this picture. This picture might be better. No, this picture's good. I'm just looking at different pictures of, oh, that one looks so fluffy. Oh, it's called a crooked beak crow. Ooh, that one looks so fluffy. Okay, okay, that one has the most matchiest wings. So don't be afraid to experiment or get kind of weird with all these cool like blues and other colors. Even though it's technically a black crow. Thing is, you can always get darker, but you can't really get lighter again. So keep that in mind. You can, but that's a secret. So it's kind of one of the things where I'm experimenting with doing kind of the lights and darks and the textures at the same time. And though it may look like I'm just kind of covering up all that I've already done, watercolor is transparent, so it wouldn't be as dark as it is now if it wasn't for that first kind of wet on wet color. Might have to speed up my process here in a second. Yeah, and here's where I'm gonna start bothering with the feetsies. Doing the first coats on that. It's okay if it looks a little messy. That's what watercolor be, or it can be. Use the tip of the brush that you're using. Trying to mix a darker green real quick just to really exaggerate the shadows here. Fun. Okay, the cross actually seems dry enough that I'm gonna also put texture on the fence now. Let's see. I'm just gonna use this kind of dark brown color, and I'm just gonna mix black into it to get a color similar to this, so it's not straight up black. And I'm actually gonna tap the color off mostly. I'm gonna do what's called a dry brushing technique. So just kind of grazing the surface with a mostly dry paintbrush. which is also what I'm gonna do with the crow. I might just do that with the crow. Kind of saves time and it's a neat effect. It's something that you can do with your junk brushes too. Do your brushes get super old? You get all scraggly and it makes some good textures. Sorry, a lot of that probably wasn't visible. Okay. I'm also going to try to make the crow darker with that really dark brown that I just mixed. Because I like it. I like it a lot. Before I get too far, let me soften. I want to soften this edge a little bit. Ooh, it's so hard to soften edges of dark colors. Okay. Crow friend. Okay. I'm gonna make a little pile of just black. And carefully. Do another just adding black to the bottoms of the feet. Okay, I'm gonna wait for that to settle for a little bit. Because dry and dry are two different dries. Which is why it can be tricky to soften dark colors, is because the layer underneath isn't all the way dry, even if it feels dry. So let's just move on to this friend. I think we can start doing like the water droplets. And the more red and orangey parts of the picture. My brush is all dirty with having all those dark colors. Just starting with a little bit of orange to fill in the little beaks, at least the first layer of the beaks. Hi, Salome! Thank you. There's a lot bigger delay of when you post in the chat and I see it than on the other platform that I stream on, which shall remain nameless. Don't want my students finding out where I do my casual stuff. How are you doing, Sight Salome? Good to see you. Okay, I'm gonna mix kind of one more darker color for this. And I'm gonna put it right underneath here. And then soften it. As in cleaning off your brush and putting the brush half where it's dry and half where it's wet. Don't touch it. Stop. Stop touching at me. I'm also going to sneak a little bit of that darker color here. Okay, next some blue. So I'm gonna fill in the water droplets with blue, but I'm gonna leave a little shiny spot there. If I can. Sometimes they're too small too. Then there's another feather over there. I mean, another water droplet. Oh, nice. You've been lurking. Lurking schmirking. How's that going? I'm sure your hair looks fabulous. I'm also going to put some little ripples in the water. Done. I mean, it's just what ifs. They're having a good time, having a good time. Okay, next it's gonna be black. So let me wash this off, make some more room. Now I'm just gonna mix a straight up black. And why you don't want to take black straight from the palette most of the time, other than for like eyes, is that you won't get a consistent black throughout your painting process. So you still gotta mix a little puddle. Which I'm sorry, it's so exciting. I'm not showing you, but let me test out. Yeah, you can still get a pretty strong black that way. And when it accumulates on top of all of these other layers, it'll be pretty dark. So at this point, I would like to just be able to paint this on and not need to soften any kind of edges. Get after that haircut sound maker after it. Going to head out. Yay! Oh yeah, have a good lucky walk. You are very welcome, Maple. Thanks for your moral support. I know I said I wouldn't soften edges, but I'm going to a little bit. Barely touching the paper there. But it still did not do what I wanted it to do. Okay, I'm gonna make a dark green. It's already kind of turned to a dark green because of the residue from my black. But if you put some green and some red together, you will get a dark green. And I'm gonna do that to make the witch's nail all wrinkly. And add an extra shadow underneath the bird's feet. Okay, I'm gonna do one more layer of black on the crow. Oh. That was just supposed to be the eye, but I guess it's everything now. I think I need to wait for that to dry a little bit more. In the meantime, I'm gonna put one more It's not a pretty orange. The orange got so dirty. I'm just gonna leave the beak as it is. And you can fill in the eye with black watercolor, but I am going to do that since I can't find it. You can't just do it with a pen, like a micron pen. Not really a ballpoint pen. Gotta be like a felt tip pen. There we go. But since I don't have any in arm's reach, I'm just gonna take black straight from the cake. Yeah, fill in the eyes. And also straight from the cake. Highly recommend you do this in pen. And do the black lines for the feet too. Yeah, they're so happy. You can add more things like feathers and stuff like that, but I'm gonna call that one. Make sure to sign your deal. I'd also put like a little white highlight on the eye, which I probably will do after stream. Then this one just needs a little bit more like solid black, like black straight from the cake. I'm gonna use my detail brush for it more. Fill in the eye. You can also do this with a pen. It might be a cool look to kind of do kind of like a sketchy look with the pen. But that wasn't one of the required materials, so that's something to keep in mind, that a felt tip pen can be pretty useful. I'm just referencing my reference to see what kind of solid black details I can add, like that. It's like kind of turning into a dry brush deal. Because I'm taking it straight from the cake. This is a bit of an experimental watercolor. Okay, now that crow is actually starting to look black. Okay, I'm pretty much calling that there. You can always take like a visual break from it and come back to it. See if like maybe there's something you missed. I want to make that a bit darker now. Yeah, add some more little extra lines with purple. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let's see. So if you have a watercolor kit like this, it will come with opaque white, like that. So if we squeeze out a little bit of that, this will be the last thing that I show for this stream. This is actually unopened, so let me get it from another source. Because I don't want to open it yet. This is the same stuff. Da-da-da. It's just white goop. Put just a little bit on there. And this isn't dry yet, so let me find where I want to put it. So let's go here. This really isn't fully dry either, but if you pretty much just have white paint, like acrylic paint, it's fine too. You can do things like add little shines, to the beaks, and add a little shine to the eyeballs. Yeah, it's still wet. Boop. Boop. Yeah, like that. That's still wet, so that won't work yet. Then right here, can I just do a little boop? There, now that eye pops. You can also soften white. White gouache, like you can put some white gouache around here. If you want, and then soften it. Then it looks even more like the moon is glowing. And you can also use white gouache to sprinkle in some little stars. You can also use it to add clouds if pulling up from the paper didn't work so well. I'm going to use it to add a little extra shine to these water droplets. Dry. Dry so I can make you shiny. Boop, boop, boop. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, cool. Alright, well, that is the end of my time. But we can't end the stream without peeling off the tape. That's the most satisfying part. Yep. And then whapa. The educational reason for this is so that if you leave the tape on for like weeks and weeks and weeks, it's more likely that the paper's gonna come off with the tape when you finally do peel it off. You can soften the stickiness on the tape if that happens with a hairdryer, and that also reduces the chances. But if you're done with a picture in a decent amount of time, in like a day or two, it's better to take off that tape sooner rather than later. Ah, yeah. I also do really like the types of watercolor pictures that don't have a clean border, that is just kind of real messy, which I might demonstrate in a future stream if we decide to do more of these. But I really appreciate everybody that stopped by the stream. Morgan, Cindy, Frankie, Salome, Maple. I forgot the other names, but thank you. I'm going to clean this off. It's also good to clean it off sooner. Clean off your palette right after you're done as well. So I might as well demonstrate good studio practices also on stream, because I usually don't. And if you've made anything, Cindy, what's a good social media platform if people want to share if they've done anything during the stream, where they should share it so that I can see it and we can all see it? Because I want to see what people made if they did make anything, or if you just watched and learned. That's also a great way to engage with the stream. So I appreciate everybody who watched, whether you participated or not. Yeah, it's cute. But yeah, ooh, let's see what the paper towel looks like. Ooh, what does it mean? What does it look like? Like a Rorschach test. Where did this go? Oh, here. Perfect. So again, that was the demonstration of the use of transparent watercolors. Can't quite, I think it's Jalen's brand. Doesn't really say. It's a weird logo. Thank you. I'm Sam. I work at your studio. It's closed right now, but hopefully we'll reopen again in June. That is the goal. And maybe email? Okay. So let's see. Let me go to... Oh, I know where to go to find the email. If you have any additional questions, feel free to email us at paint@spellviewstudio.com. Okay. So if you made any art during the stream, feel free to send it to this email address, and it will be probably posted on all the social medias. I'm not in charge of that. Balins, yes. Okay, so that's going to do it for me for the stream tonight. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time if we do this again. Alright, stay safe, stay sane,